before we understand the subject on rebirth, there sometimes you visit certain place which you have never visited before, and you have a strong affinity, strong liking for that particular place. Right? Huh? Or you I know of one friend. He's from Switzerland. He's a dentist. The moment he arrived in Sri Lanka, the moment the plane landed in Sri Lanka, as soon as he came out, he saw hill. He saw hill and rocks and all that, no? But in the airport there were no hill, no rocks. Huh? And 2 days later, 1 or 2 days later, he went and he visited Mahinda, and he saw exactly the things that he had seen, and he was very familiar with that place. In Mahinda, the place where Arahat Mahinda landed from India. And similarly, there are some people who, upon meeting, when they meet certain people, then they become very friendly. And due to past association, sometimes also some music, something, they hear it, they have heard before, like that. All these are certain evidence of past lives, ability to recall a little bit, just a tiny fraction of the great storehouse of our past. And right, first let us talk about birth. Okay, what is birth? From the Buddhist explanation of birth is slightly different from the medical, biological definition. Birth in Buddhism, for there to be birth, for there to be conception, 3 important factors. There must be 3 important factors. What are the 3 important factors? One is the contribution of the mother. Then the other is from the father. Elements from both, mother and father. Then there must be at a proper time, proper period of the mother. Then, so the first factor is contribution of mother and father, right? With the sperm and the ovum. Then the second condition is at the proper time of the mother. The third condition, where medical science is concerned, they only consider these 2 conditions. But in Buddhism, we consider the third factor. And this third factor is a very important factor. In fact, it is the all-important factor. It is called the being ready to be born. Being ready to be born. Or we use that word gandhabba, ghost. Does not refer to ghost, but refer to the being that is ready to be born. So that is why we can explain better than the doctors can explain. Why some couples, after living together for many years, still they are not able to produce any children. They are normal, still no children. As long as that the third factor, the being ready to be born, is not ready to be born. It's not there. The third factor is not there. Then, no. Childless, barren. No? So, this is the Buddhist concept of conception. The Buddhist explanation of what conception is about. Now later you will understand what this being ready to be born is. In order to understand that, we will first take a look at what is born. Right? What is born at the time of birth? When the child is born, what is that child made up of? Oh, very good. Mind and matter, or mind and body. Right? Yes?
The life starts from the sister sleep or the life
And, well, the life, it depends. The life of the child begins from the first time, according to some people. There are different views about it. I think there is one view that holds, that what I heard is that, I have asked this question also. So some people say that the life begins with the first breath. When the child takes the first breath, breathes the first breath, that's where the life begins. But right from the time of conception, when the three factors are there, there is already the seed of life there. What's that? Oh, yes, yes. Now, to what extent, at what stage, we do not know. And I've been discussing with some Buddhist doctors in Australia, and whether it is the 4-cell stage, 8-cell stage, or 16-cell stage. You see, those who study embryology, biology, can understand this, no? And so we cannot pinpoint at which stage, as yet. And so for the time being, we have to take just the general outline of it. Okay? Then this life, this being that is born, what are they? Made up of mind and body, mind and matter, mental and physical processes. And that is what you have learned this morning. What are these? What are these mental and physical? Rupa and Nama. Nama, Rupa. Can you recall? Body, the physical process. Then feeling process, right? Feeling process. Thirdly, perception process. Fourth, mental formation. Fifth, consciousness process. These 5 processes, this is what? The being. So life is the continuous stream of this mental process. Right? Then, what happens at death? What will happen at death? Again here, the Buddhist definition of death and the medical definition slightly differs. How the medical science define death? Yes. At first, they thought when the heart stopped beating, right? And then later, the brain. When the brain stops beating, then that is how they certify death. What about the Buddhist definition of death? Anybody knows? What? Conscious, what conscious? Yes? Separation of? Yes. When consciousness separates from the body, which begins to disintegrate. This is the Buddhist definition of death. When vijnana, consciousness separates from the body. So sometimes consciousness still can remain lingering for a little while. So this consciousness, we call this kind of consciousness relinking consciousness. And then we explain. How do we explain rebirth generally? At death, what happens to the body? The physical part of the body. They disintegrate. So, the elements of the body, earth elements, return to the earth. Water element returns to the where? Go to the stream and then river and reservoir, and then you drink those water. Right? Yes, of course. Very sweet, especially those who stay in around Bukit China, and where they bury the body, and then those who visit Malacca, and you take that well water, very tasty water. So they are very natural. Now all the material things decomposes and return to its sources. What about the mind? What about the mental energy? This mental energy do not disappear. Even the physical energy, even the physical processes, the materials, they don't disappear. They return to their respective sources. So what about the mind? What about the thought process? Where do they go? They continue. And this continuity, the continuity of this thought process, That is how we understand rebirth. Huh? This thought process coupled with this thought process actually are composed or consists of that karmic force. This karmic force plus craving, there must be the craving tendency, craving for existence, craving for life. If there is no craving, there is no birth. This craving force is just like, do you know the electromagnet? Big, huge magnet. When you turn on the electricity, the magnet will produce a field of force and will attract all the iron materials. But the moment you switch off the electricity supply, what happens to the electromagnet? The field of force ceases. Where there is no field of force, there is no attraction. Then it cannot attract the iron materials any longer. So in the same manner, this force of craving is that force which is necessary to attract other material, all the physical elements, earth, water, wind and fire. It is the craving force is necessary to attract them. And that is how, with that craving force, again all the elements are attracted and come together with that, the conscious stream, the mental process, which continues. Hence, we get the birth of another being. Where the being is going to be born, the form, the shape, the size, the color will depend on what? The karma will depend on the karmic energy. The karmic energy. The karmic energy will direct us. The last thought moment, that which we call the relinking consciousness, that is just like a seed, considered to be like a seed. Karma is the field. Craving, the moisture. There is the seed, there is the soil, and there is the moisture. Then the seed will germinate. So that is how a new being comes to being. A new being is born. Now it depends on the craving, the tendencies, and all the accumulated tendencies, karmic tendencies. That is why those people who love music and their whole life they spend composing music, listening, so the karmic force is musical, has a musical inclination. So when they die, that karma will condition them. If there are no other counteractive forces, then their karma is going to condition them to be born in certain environment, certain place, within certain family, where this being can continue his musical career. And that is how we explain how one can be born, like Bach and Beethoven, how very young age they are able to compose music, and of course in a similar manner, those who have been leading religious lives, always going to temple, supporting the monks, cleaning the temple, then you know where they are born? They are born close to the temple vicinities. Or if not, the moment they come into contact with the temple, with the monastery, they like to stay. They like to become monk. No, it's yes. Again, conditioned by the past karma, conditioned by the past. It is not easy, if you, for anybody, nothing happens by chance. Nothing can happen by chance. There are something of the past conditioning the present. And there's also the present moment, which is important. That present will condition the future. That is why in Buddhism, the law of karma, the understanding of the law of karma, is not fatalistic. It is not fatalistic in the sense that whatever we have done in the past definitely happened and we have no choice. We cannot change. No, we can change. I mentioned before, those who believe in astrology and palmistry, when you start developing your mind and strengthening your mind, you will see how all these lines, tendencies change. And you can prove your astrologer wrong also. If you have strong mind. But if your mind is weak, then the karma will take its course. Karma will take its course. If you have a strong mind, you perform, avoiding evil, doing more good. You allow Dhamma to condition, to be the master, to direct the course of your life. So, understanding of rebirth. Still, you understand, we have explained just a little bit how rebirth takes place and what is reborn. Now, we need to understand a little bit more about the dying moment, so that we can understand what this last thought, how this last thought appears in the mind and how it conditions the next birth. Because the last thought moment is important. It plays a role of conditioning the next birth. In the same manner, you can experience it. You don't have to wait until dying moment. You can experience it every day. If If you can develop your mindfulness and sleep mindfully in the night, don't wait until you are sleepy and drowsy to sleep. When your mind is clear, and then you go to sleep. And the last thought that is in your mind, the last thought that you hold in your mind, that thought will condition you in the morning. The first thought in the morning that appears. If you are very grumpy and very drowsy and sleepy, you sleep with that kind of mental condition, with a sloth and torpor mind. You get up in the morning also, very difficult, with sloth and torpor. If your mind is clear, in the morning, your mind, first thought, also very clear, appears. No? You try and watch. So, death, dying moment, what are the things that condition our last thought? It is our karma. Firstly, the last thought can be conditioned by thought, some of the thoughts, some of our action which we have performed in the past, and it impresses in our mind very strongly. Can you remember the story which Chief Reverend mentioned about that man who, in the last moments, he had, because of what he had done, because of his cruel action in the past, he had, in the last thought moment, he had seen fire, flame. Remember? And then what happened? Because he had done a very good action, he had encouraged his son, and his son had become a monk. So, as soon as he saw that fire, he saw the color of the flame, then last thing that happened, that color, the flame, conditioned his mind because of the meritorious, good action that he has done. Immediately, he associated that color with the robe of his son, the robe which he had offered his son. And the moment he saw his son in robes, his mind was very calm and peaceful. So he died very peacefully, very peacefully. Now, the thought, karma which appeared in the thought, that's the first thing which can condition the last thought moment. Sometimes the thought does not appear in the form of a thought. It appears in the form of a symbol. In other words, it is a sign. It is called nimitta, karma nimitta. Karma nimitta is, it's the symbol or it is the sign of the action. The symbol of the action. Like this. Those who have been killing, the butchers have been killing and slaughtering animals with what they slaughter. those who use the dagger, knife to slaughter animals. The last thought moment, if the thought does not arise, then what can arise is the nimitta, the symbol, a sign can arise in the mind, and he sees. He sees what? Sometimes he can see dagger or blood. But you cannot see. All the other relatives around cannot see. But he will say, he has seen, he sees these things. And when he sees this kind of object, this kind of mental image in the mind, can become very fearful, can scream, can cry, can fearful, become fearful. But those who have done good action, on the other hand, those who come, and this is where all the symbols, religious symbols, comes to play. When you perform certain actions, religious actions, and the last thought moment, some religious symbol can appear that meant as your mental image, and that can condition the last thought moment. Like what? When you see flowers, when you offer flowers, offer incense, sometimes can smell incense also. Sometimes can see Buddha nimit, image, Buddha image. The moment you see this, oh, very peaceful, very calm. The mind becomes calm, becomes strong. Then it conditions. You see? That is what we call karma nimitta. In other words, they are the sign. A sign or a symbol of the karmic, of the action that you perform. By this sign, you can associate with certain actions. Now, in the absence of the strong, the karmic, the thought, or the sign, symbol, some people do not have. They don't see these signs. Then it is their habitual karma, their habits, what they have been used to doing every day, again and again. That karma can condition the next birth. Now the idea is this: by reciting certain words, the name of the Buddha again and again, then the last moment, because of that habit you have formed, it appears in your mind again. Then the moment it appears in your mind, you have associated that word. The words are actually symbols. No? Words are symbols. That word is associated with some great qualities, virtues, and peace. So, as soon as you recite, you recollect those words that you have been chanting, reciting again and again. When you have the good thoughts arise in your mind, then that good thought can condition good birth. Understand? That is why some of the monks have been invited. Every time the monks are invited to go out to do some blessing, especially for those people who are very sick and on the deathbed. Because when we perform this, and normally when we perform this, we will recite we'll do some chanting. And then sometimes we sprinkle some water, and they will burn some incense, right? Now all these are all religious symbols, no? Now in case that dying person, the person who is dying, is very weak, sometimes cannot see, so he cannot see the monk, but he can hear. So the moment he hears the chanting, or he hears the bell, depending which monk goes there, then immediately he hears this, he associates it with the Buddha. His mind is calm, peaceful. And the pain, I have seen these things again and again. And on one occasion, one old woman, she had been screaming. For a few days she had been screaming in pain of dying of cancer. Then the son, they are intellectuals, but they respect their mothers. So they don't believe in all these things. However, they respect the mother, knowing that the mother had in the past gone to temples. So they thought what the best thing to do was to come to temple. So they came to temple, and at that time there were no other monks, so I went. When I went there, I started to recite some things that I know. And the moment he announces to the mother that, Potan Lai Liao, he says, the monk came here already and reciting, Yam Keng, she put her hands, she clasped her hands. The moment she clasped her hands, you can see some smile, calm, these things. And then recite something and calm her. Right? Then after a little while I went back. 3 days later, all the sons come. And look at them, smiling. And they say, they are all really, mature, you see. And doctors, engineers, bankers came from America, from various parts of the world. And then he said that, after that, what is it? His mother remained very peaceful, very quiet, just waiting for the daughter. When the daughter came back, had a look, met the daughter, and breathed her lungs. And reborn somewhere else. Peacefully. No? And so from that time on, that man began to have some confidence. No? Otherwise, these intellectuals, they run down. What you doing here every Sunday, offering flowers and incense and food? And who is going to smell them? Will the Buddha smell them? Will the Buddha smell all these flowers and all? See all these flowers? No. These are actually symbols, religious symbols. In fact, we can contemplate, we can have direct contemplation on all these religious symbols. But to the ordinary devotees, very difficult for them to have the right contemplation on these things. But those of you who understand, you should, in the process of offering all these flowers, incense, and what is that? Lights. These are the three main things: light, flowers, incense. Fruits, food, whatever you have. What do they symbolize? What do they symbolize? To different people, they symbolize different things. But you can see, when you offer light, what is light? What is the function of light? Light to dispel darkness. So, in the same manner, it is our wisdom mind which dispels the darkness of ignorance. So light is a symbol of wisdom. Light is a symbol of wisdom. In the first discourse that the Buddha gave, when the Buddha preached the first sermon, the Buddha related how, when wisdom arose in him, that wisdom, that insight arose with light. His mind was brightened, light arose. Aloko udapadi, jnanang udapadi. So, wisdom, light arose in the mind. So every time you offer light, make firm resolution. Just as this light brightens, may I grow in wisdom. May I have that wisdom which is able to dispel the darkness of ignorance in my mind. Always contemplate on wisdom, panya. Then that mind, that state, that kind of thought will condition you to go develop wisdom. Then flowers, offering of flowers. What is that? You recite those gatha. When you Vanaganda Guno Petang and so on, these flowers, full of fragrance, full of color, fresh, I offer at the sacred feet of the Buddha in gratitude as a mark of respect. Then, just as these flowers will wither away, so will this body of mine, so will this body of mine. So every time you offer, flowers are very beautiful things. And those of you who have been cleaning the flower vase every morning, you know the nature of flowers. And I see some of you close. Don't close. Smell. And then see, look at it. After those people who come, you have the opportunity. All those people who come and offer flowers, they have not the opportunity to see the real thing. you have the opportunity to see the real thing after 1 week. When they have gone, the flowers are kept in the vase. After 1 week, then you wash and you see beautiful smell. And you see how all the petals wither and the stem become brown and rot. What do? You start grumbling. Is it? You start grumbling, says, why of all things, we have to clean the flowers? Why not the novices do this? This is, then you do not know how to take the opportunity to practice the Dhamma. When you are confronted with this situation, then you think, oh, now, you see, this is the nature of the flowers. So beautiful, but now wither away. My body also like that. Now very young. A lot of hair. You have a lot of hair, no, not any. And your skin, not withered. But after some time, all will wither away, just like these flowers. When you have that, you can contemplate on the reality of life, impermanent nature of life. It is when you begin to understand the impermanent nature of life, that everything is impermanent, then you will not cling to things. No? Sometimes, due to our carelessness, sometimes, due to certain karma also, all the things that we have can get lost. If people don't take it, can be burned. Now, it's impermanent, no? That is. Now I'll tell you one incident. When I was in Thailand early last year, or was it early this year? Early this year, yes. This is 1987, yes, early this year. I went, and that time there were not many monks around there. And in the morning, I came up to actually in the forest. I returned to the forest at Kanchanaburi, Sunyataram, and the shrine hall was made of bamboo. So I went up and paying homage to the Buddha. Then, after a little while, one woman came. Not morning, it was evening, sorry. Then this woman came. This woman had recognized me. She had seen me the year before. In 1985, I had stayed in that place for 3 months. So she had noticed, she had seen me. Then she came before me and paying in the usual manner, paying her respects, and then after that she opened up, she says, "Are you so and so?" He says, "Yes, I have seen you. You can remember me?" "Are you so and so?" He says, "Yes, I have seen you. You can remember me?" She said. Then I said, "Yes, I think quite familiar with it, but I cannot remember your name." Then she said, yes. She said, "Since I last saw you, many things have happened to me." She said, "I was staying in this place, in the forest, with all the other disciples. I've been listening to the discourses of Pra-Achan. Pra-Achan Yantra, the teacher, used to preach. And whatever he preaches, always he talks about, he asks his people to contemplate about anicca, change, impermanence. And so, when after listening to the Dhamma for many days, she had stayed there. After that, she said, one day she went back to Bangkok. She was living in Bangkok. The moment she returned Bangkok to the place where she was living, she heard the news that her whole house had been burnt. Not only, a lot of other houses around it all burnt. So she told me this. She said, I went back, I saw everything already burned, charcoal. I could not get anything. Then suddenly she said, I remember, the only thing I recall was Acharyantra's teaching. And the moment she recalled that, she said, her mind, she recollected that this is anicca, change. Then she said, there was no sorrow in her mind, no sorrow in her mind at all. Then immediately, because the mind had no sorrow, she was able to have that presence of mind to think, what happened to my mother and what happened to my son? Because the mother was living with her and the son was living with her. And immediately she went to inquire from the people around. And they told that mother and son are safe. Then, oh, no, you think they were the ones, Oh, the mother was safe. Then the son, small boy, 11 years old. The son told the mother, he said, Mother, never mind, mother. He said, you can go back to the forest and stay with all the mages. I will go to the temple and become monk. Oh, very understanding. Small boy, very understanding. Because he had gained all this understanding, because he had been following the mother, had been listening to Dhamma again and again. So although he was young, he was very understanding. Then the mother says, okay. Mother says, okay. Because there was nothing with her. All her money had gone. Then she points out to me. She says, these clothes that I wear, she says. She points out the blouse and the skirt that she wears, she says. These I got from, people gave it to me, she says. But she said, before my house was burned, I used to give all my clothes to my friends. Now I receive from them. So she said, while she was telling me this story, no tears, her mind was steady, very calm. Then she says, I have come here, she says, because I came here to find a builder, to find somebody who can construct house with bamboo. So she went to find, because she says, still my mother has to stay in a place, in a small hut at least. So she said, she's starting life all over again. But she says, every time any sorrow arises in my mind, I recall of the teaching. Prajnacan mentioned. And I always think of this is the nature of life. It is impermanent. And our actions are important. But because of what she has given in the past, people give her. So I asked her, where do you get the money to build? She says, now no problem, she says. I have enough money now to build a house again. That is the story, you see. Because when she contemplates have right contemplation in the mind, no sorrow appear in the mind. Or whenever sorrow appears in the mind, she was able to overcome that sorrow with right thoughts in the mind, right contemplation in the mind. Right. Now come back to rebirth. And so now you have understood a little bit about rebirth. What you have done in the past will condition the present, and the present will condition the future. How you will be born, what you will be born as, will depend on your actions. Now, some people ask, can I be born as human being again? What do you think? No guarantee. Simply because you are a human being, right? But if you want to be born as human being, you must cherish, you must live after what? Certain human qualities, values. What are the qualities of a human being which differs that being from all other animals, all other beings? What is that? Very good. The mind. And that is why you are called Manusia. I don't want to use this word man because some of you say, what about woman? So I use the word Manusia. You know, in Malay we use the word Manusia. The word Manusia has come from the Pali and Sanskrit word. Pali is Manusa, Manusa, Manusa Loka, human realm. And this word Manusa, from this word Manusa you get the word man, man. Man in German, man in English. It comes from the root word manas, right? So, in human being, the definition of a human is one who has the has the potentiality to develop his mind. One has the ability to develop the mind. So if you live cherishing these values to culture the mind, to develop the mind, to think, use your mind to think, then you can be born again. But those who like to use their senses in other ways, you know, in Australia, when these people, they are a bit skeptical about rebirth, no? And they always ask this question. You talk about rebirth. Can you be born? Can we be born like a dog? Like a rat? Or like a cat? Then I say, why not? If you like to lick the bone and have that licking good, you always lick the bone and bite the bone and chew the bone, right? Because you say it's licking good, and so you would tongue like, why not? If you have that habit, you cultivate that habit. Instead of cultivating the mind, you cultivate the dog habit. Not a dog habit. Sometimes you see how human beings, how they behave like animals. No? So they are tending all their energies, karmically, they are transforming themselves. Nobody else transformed them. No God is transforming them, making them into an animal. They themselves, by their actions, by their karmic tendencies, they are molding themselves. You see? And then those who use their nose, everything smells. Before you eat, you smell. You develop. Certainly you will develop the power of smelling. The faculty of smell becomes very good. Then the part in your brain, when you smell and you begin to develop, become a very skillful smeller. Then that part of your brain becomes more well developed. But the other parts of the brain becomes less developed. The thinking part becomes less developed if you don't think. Or you like to use your ear, listen. Listen to all kinds of sound and music and keep on listening. Whole day, only hearing only. Develop your hearing faculties. The moment you hear a sound, yes, that's, what chord, and listen. Then, if you only spend time listening, you develop the auditory faculties, the hearing capacity. So next time when you are born, your faculty to listen will be very powerful. But no guarantee that you come back as human being, because the energy has formed your brain in a different form. So the body too differently. So this is how one's energy, every time we are transforming, we are molding ourselves. So you can see the connection between karma and rebirth. There are many stories. Now you can ask about stories, evidences of rebirth. There are many stories now about. Today, there is a good news that I heard. I do not know how far it is true. Maybe some of you can verify. I heard that very soon there's going to be another Vatican meeting. The Catholics are going to meet Vatican, and they are going to accept the teaching on rebirth. Yes, I heard that. Because some other Christian group oh yes, they are going to withdraw the story of eternal hell. Yes, that's right. Because if they introduce rebirth, they have to withdraw eternal hell, no? They are interrelated. Oh, can't help it. Because now, in the light of truth, either they continue to fool others, or because this is the truth. There are other groups, other Christian groups have already accepted rebirth. You see? And have already given up that idea of eternal hell. Do you know, I had this experience when I was in Tasmania. I spent a little while in Tasmania. And one fine day, was a very quiet day, and 2-3 persons came. And they came and they said, "Sir, we have good news for you." And you know who are these good news peddlers? They say, "Good news." Then immediately I know who they are. But because I was quite free there, okay, come, please, sit down. We will talk. And we start talking. And he was very refined, actually very refined. And he said, "Why, the good news, and the world is coming to an end." And, oh, no, he says, it's coming to an end. But, then he opens the book, the Bible, then he quotes. He says, prophecy, on prophecy. This is what has been prophesied, and see, this is what is happening in Iran. They are fighting, they are killing one another, and this is what is happening. Religion is fighting religion. These are the times, We are living in this time. But then he does not say immediately, that if you want, you can be saved. He does not say that directly because, he knows that we are monks, And because I told him that I am a monk on that, Then he said, after that, keep quiet, Then I asked him, what happens, at the end of the world, then what happens? He says, well, he says, those who accept this word, they will live eternally. Then I asked him, what about those who don't accept this word? Then he said, then they will die. I said, yes. No, I said, then they die. What happens to them? No, they just die. Then I asked, they don't go to hell? No. They don't go to hell. They die. They are not reborn again. They have no chance, it says, they have no chance to live in the paradise that's going to be on earth. There will be a paradise on earth. They won't have any chance. Then I asked, how to be born in that paradise, on earth? He says, those who accept these words. And then he said, I said, can all go? He said, no. There are only some. And then, I do not know, 144,000 or something. He mentioned something, 144,000 or something will be, born. Then I said, are you sure others don't go to hell? He said, sure, there's no hell now. Then I recall 10 years ago, and a little bit more than that, 12, 13 years ago, before I became a monk, I have had occasions with these same group in Malaysia. They came to my house. They came to our house, and then, I gave them coffee, and then we had a talk. When they pick up the books, I said, no. At that time, I said, no. Put down. If you are going to use your books, I'm going to use my books. And then he looked at me, he says, all right. He says, in that case, we will just stop. Right, we will stop. Then there were 3 of them. And okay, let's start. Now, there was an Indian girl, also a Chinese girl, and a Chinese man. I said, before you had this good news, what were you before? He says, I was a Hindu. And then I said, then you found that in Hinduism there were no good news, is that right? And I asked her, do you know something about Hinduism? Don't know. Then I said, how do you know there's no better news than that? Then she kept quiet. Then I went to the Chinese girl. I asked her, what were you before you took this good news? She said, I was a Buddhist. Very good. I asked her, what did you know about Buddhism that time? Oh, Buddhism. Oh, that's, very funny religion. She did not know I was a Buddhist, At that time, I was in white, dressed in white. And then she said, yes, I know something, but, I cannot accept this thing. What is that you know? Then she says, now I cannot remember already. And so she accepted that. Then after that, in the course of our talks, I traced down to the causes of war, pointed out wars are happening. I say, why war? And when we are talking, I say, greed, hatred, delusion, isn't it? And they agree, yes. Then I asked them, can you point out in which chapter and verse there is stated in your books where is mentioned greed, hatred, and ignorance is the cause of war? After that, they packed their books, and I said, another cup of coffee? No, thank you. They went out. The second time they came for a second time. When this was new group, but they had discussed with their chief. Their chief has been in this line for 12, 13 years. And when this new one came, just as it was approached the house, the chief from afar, I was upstairs, I saw what the chief, hey, come back, don't go that one. That one is, Satans are living in the world. He must have said that, that's a real Satan. That's the one in white, that one, And, so, no problem. No problem. Anyway, this is what is happening today. This is what is happening. In the light of truth, they have to change their teachings. They have to change their dogmas. And they are doing that. There are even some Christians in Ipoh that have gathered some Buddhists together and then took the Lotus Sutra and preached the Lotus Sutra and says that Jesus preached this. There's no joke. You can verify these things in Ipoh. I was told this when I went there. Yes. Good news. Anyway, if they can teach something as truth, it is good. Never mind. I have been in the States, I have, and they have invited, certain churches have invited us, and in the church they have, in the main things, they have a cross, and they have a Dhammachakra there. Yes, Buddha and Christ. They celebrate Christmas, they celebrate Vesak. No harm. As long as they can take the good values, accept where truth is. So, we tell them, change take these teachings, never mind. You can take your time and change the book again. Because it had taken them 20 years in America to produce St. James Version. No, there are many, the Good News version and all that version, no? But never mind, you have to change again, no? So, all those people who said that no such thing as rebirth, they have to change this idea. Because there are ample evidences coming up, scientifically. People like Edgar Cayce in America, he does not believe, he's a Christian, he does not believe, he does not know this word karma, but when he gets into a trance, he used to cure people's sicknesses, no? And when people come to him, and he gets into some kind of a trance, and then he will tell them, in the past you have done this thing. This is your karma. Yes. And if you want to overcome this, this is the prescription. He has given that. No? So, in the trance he had mentioned about karma and so on. When he gets out of a trance, he says, who said I said that? And all it has been documented. There are thousands of cases how he had recollect, how he had diagnosed sicknesses. And you might have heard of this well-known scholar, Dr. Ian Stevenson, from the University of Virginia. He also had made very scientific studies. Whenever he heard of cases of rebirth, people able to recall their past. He will go in different parts of the world. He will find out details. I think we have. Some of you might have heard the recording of a small monk. Have you heard that one? When did you hear it? Is that right? Oh, Chief Reverend mentioned about it. Is that right? One small boy. How he was at that time he was about 5-6 years old. He was able to recite. In fact, he had told his mother that he was at the place, he was present at the time when the Buddha was cremated. No? And then he would sit in a corner and he will recite the suttas. He was only about 5 years old. He has never learned Pali. But he was able to recite without any mistakes. And the best was, he was able to recite the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sermon, which some of you were listening this afternoon, I heard. He was able to recite the whole thing. Even monks, even the elderly monks, who have learned, who have become monks for 40-50 years, still, many of them could not recite by heart the whole discourse. But this small boy went on reciting it. When the mother thought, the mother informed this
to some monks, the monks came and listened to him. They could not find any mistakes. We have the recording. We have the recording how he recited that. So like this, there are many instances. And so there is now more and more evidences of rebirth. That is why today, in the light of these evidences, people, those who have heard about this, they have to open their minds. No more eternal hell and eternal heaven. Go on. Now, question time. That means he did not die. The consciousness have not left. The doctors have certified he is dead, but he is not dead. Those who live in Kelantan, I do not know, in Kota Baru, many years ago there was an incident. How this man, he died of an accident. He was put in a coffin. And then he was kept in the vicinity of the temple. Then in the night, nobody was around. He got up. He got up and he walked back to the house. Everybody thought he was dead. He walked back to the house and he knocked the door. When the wife opened the door, then he fell down. He fell down. I do not know. She also might have fallen down. But he fell down and this time really dropped dead. And then brought back again. This time did not wake up. Yes. Now, there are quite a few cases we have heard of people who have been put in the coffin, and the Chinese coffin especially, they seal it. So after a little while, they hear pum, 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 pum. And they say, oh, this must be the ghost. The poor fellow inside is kicking. He is still not dead. Although the doctors have come to certify dead, but consciousness is still lingering somewhere. So that is why there is this practice of leaving the dead body for some time without closing. At least for how many hours? I think depending on tradition, certain traditions will keep the body for at least 8 hours or so. And within that time, they get somebody to watch there all the time. Yes, they have this belief, somebody must be around, in case the body moves. And so this is, anyway, don't worry. What is most important thing is this, your actions, your actions, good actions. If you have a good storehouse of action, even if you come back again, then still there will be good thoughts in your mind to condition the next birth. One who truly understands, those who contemplate, have right contemplation and understand the nature of death, at the time of death there will not be fear. Because why? Why? No. I remember one occasion I was invited to speak in France, in one place in France near the German border, and I was addressing one group, all old ladies in their 50s, 60s and 70s. No? All of them are old, no? Now I was asked to speak about Buddhism. I did not know where to start. They were not Buddhists. Huh? They were from a small village in Alsace, in Mulhouse. Then I started to talk to them about Buddhism, about this life. Then suddenly a thought arose in my mind. They are old people. No? They are very worried. They have worries. So I talk about rebirth. The moment I start to talk about rebirth, I look at their faces begin to sparkle, begin to become very happy. Then I knew why. You know why? Because they, at least now they have hope now. They know that they are getting old now. Anytime can go. But now they say, there is another life? Oh! Huh? What is that? What are we going to be born as? Like that. No? So this is true. When one begins to understand the nature of death, then you can understand that death is nothing but a temporary phenomena. Death is only a temporary phenomena. It is not an end. Continue again. Only thing is, be prepared. And any time. You cannot say tomorrow, any time. Be prepared. How to be prepared? Always keep the mind in good order. That's why the Dalai Lama, you know the Dalai Lama? He is spending most of his time now contemplating on death. And they have this very strong practice on contemplation on death, because this is how they are able to channel, direct their birth, where they are going to be born. Because when their mind, if they can die with very clear mind, no fear, no things, that mind is very strong. Strong determination. Those who want to help others, continue to help others. What form? They direct. So, contemplate. But most of the people don't go back and don't talk about death. The moment you talk about death, the parents says, oh, sway. He says, bad luck. They don't want to talk about that. But actually, in Buddhism, real practice of it is frequently we contemplate about the nature of life and death. Yes. Now he said, since the last thought is the one that is going to condition the next birth, if that person has been leading a very wicked and evil way of life, then in the last moment he gets good thought. So he will have good birth, right? So he says, if that be so, then can still continue doing bad things until the last moment. How are you going to be certain that last moment you're going to get good thoughts? Huh? Now, the thing is this, don't take this chance. Huh? Even if it is true that the last thought, if that person has been doing some bad things in this lifetime, and if the last thought he can get some good thoughts in the mind, the last thought moment is good, he will be born in a good plane of existence. But, depending still, in order to maintain his life in this world, he needs, remember yesterday I talked supporting karma. He needs some supporting karma. In order for him to enjoy the good life, he needs some supporting karma. So if he has, the storehouse is no good, then although he is born in a good plane of existence, he has no supporting karma. However, because he is born in a good plane, he has more opportunities for some of the good karmas in the past to ripen. Understand? Good. The chances are still there. Good chance. But that is why we can explain how some children, they are born, and at early age, very early age, they die. No? Sometimes they are born, and then it can be due to certain counteractive karma, certain destructive karma. And the karma cannot support the birth in that condition. So if one can understand about karma and rebirth, one will not say that, oh, the good die young, the old die, because they are bad, that's why they die very old. I have heard of people preaching when they attend a funeral, and if the dead person is a young one, he will say the good die young. If he's an old man, then he says the good die old. We don't say that. Young, good or bad, can die at any moment, depending on the kind of the supporting karma. Oh, yes. Concept of Siamese twins. Now he asked about Siamese twins. Yes, that's very good. In Sri Lanka, just before I left there in 1982, and I have seen in the newspaper the story of a twin, how they were born twins. And it so happened that twins were, at that time, was about 7 or 8 years old. Both of them were girls. But both of them could recall their past lives. One of them recalled his name. He gave his name. And he said he died in what year? 1971, during the insurgent, period. And how he died, where he died. The other one also, when they were born in different families. Sorry, they were born in the same family, they are twins. The other one was able to recall where he died. Both of them, in their past birth, they had been good friends. They were boys. They were men. Huh? And they were living very closely. And when they traced the names of these two boys, they found they were the real places where they died. You know? And the conditions under which they died also, these girls, two twins, were able to remember. Because they were so close together. So, what happens is, when they die, these minds, mental energies, come to the same mother. They seek to be born together. And they are born together. No? So they have to be, every day they meet one another. Do our dreams, we dream our previous lives, is that right? Sometimes certain previous actions in the past can come up again and again, can condition our dreams. But you should not, because there are many causes of this dreams. Chief Reverend recommend the book What Buddhists Believe. You read on the dream chapter, okay?